One of the areas that you may have to consider, or you may be asked to consider, is whether or not to put up a windsock, something to show your first responders before they get here what the weather's like. You can run a windsock or you can run a wind flag. I have both, but I only have one wind flag, and that's down over there by my compressors. Biggest difference between a flag and a sock is a flag will move at a much lower airspeed. It's far more sensitive. But a windsock has better visibility, long range visibility. I was asked by my fire chief to put up a windsock on my property. I've never done a windsock before. I don't even know where to buy a windsock. So I found a place, and I'm going to put a link at the bottom of this video, airportwindsocks.com, and they're up in Minnesota. That's where I bought everything. And so I asked them, I said, where do you put a windsock on your property? They said, it's up to you. I said, well, how high up do you put a windsock? They said, well, traditionally windsocks for airports are just pretty close to the ground. And I thought, well, I want my windsock up high enough to where you can see it. Well, how high is that? Well, where do you put it at? And when you put it up high, how can you service that windsock when it either gets torn or faded or just needs to be repaired or replaced? I thought about mounting a windsock on building a frame and putting it on top of my storage tanks. I thought, well, yeah, that'll work. That'll get me height, but now I got to put on a body harness, and I've got to be tethered off to get up on top of the tanks and do that. Well, that's too much work. And whatever I do, I have to realize I have to make this serviceable with no help from anybody, because what are the odds that I'll actually have help available if I have to actually do a repair? So what I came up with and is my own creation from parts that were left over from my original construction here. And so it's made up here of galvanized 1 5/8" electrical strut bar. And then I bolted it on to, I think these are 3-inch conduit hangers. And then I went and attached it with these conduit hangers into my corner post. And to also keep these from turning, here on the back side I set a self-tapping screw to keep these conduit hangers from wanting to turn. And then I've got some rubber spacers in here to give it some good grip. And this strut bar is 20 feet tall. So, strut bar's running up 20 feet. And then I have two 10-foot pieces of 3/4 inch galvanized pipe. I originally had rigid electrical conduit. That's all I had. So when I had to replace this, and so I just went ahead with 3/4 inch galvanized pipe and got it in 10-foot sections. I just got from my local Ace Hardware, and then just put a pipe coupler in there. And then, if you can get a shot up there at that coupler, in the middle of the coupler I drilled a 1/2 inch hole. And I ran a 3/8 bolt through there. And I got a nice big fat square washer back there, and that is now my pivot point. And then if you look up there a little bit, there's another piece of grip strut. It's a right angle bracket. I bolted that there so that it's kind of like, acts like a stop, and it also prevents the wind from overly pushing it that way and bending the pipe that way. And then I extend on up, and then I'm going to lower this and we'll actually show you what is sitting on the top. Well, I wanted to make this thing to where I could raise and lower this flag just by standing on the ground. So I bolted on 2 3/4 inch conduit hangers, one here, one here, and then I put a 3/4 inch cap, and then I put an eye bolt in here, and then in the eye bolt, all I got to do is get over there, lower that down. Oh, where's my wrench? Let's pull this. All right, when I just pulled my 2 bolts, spread your clamps apart, pull it out, and then you just bring it down to you. And here we go. And then I want to show you that what I bought from, there it is, airportwindsocks.com. What I bought is this swivel, and it just comes with this nipple here, and you just thread on a pipe coupler, and then this is the cage. They offer a couple different models. This is the one I went with. I asked them, what size of windsock should I buy? Because there's all kinds. They said, well, it depends. There's too many variables. And I thought, well, how far do I want this to be seen? So I went driving around, and I went to my town for where the fire station is, and I drove over to here, and notice there's a little rise on the state highway. And when you're on this rise, just before you turn down my county road, that's when you could see the top of my tanks. And I thought, boy, it should be great if I could be seen that far away. So what I ended up buying, this is an 18-inch by 60-inch windsock. And sure enough, when this thing's up in the air, you can see it from back over there, and it's about a half a mile away. So you can see it. I'm happy with that. Fire chief is happy with that. And according to my fire chief, if they get a call and they have to come out to my place or any other place where there's a possible fire, possible hazardous incident, they always are required to find wind direction and wind speed before they leave their station. Well, so they're going to have that information, but you and I and everybody knows wind isn't constant across, and so this is another indicator before they actually enter my property. They can see what the actual air movement is before, like I said, before they ever come down my drive. So I have to replace that about every 2 years. So all the more it lasts, and by then it's just too faded to be good. I've only once had wind strong enough to break some of these zip ties, and about every 2 years we get a windstorm severe enough that 1 or 2 of these pieces of pipe will get bent, and then I have to take it apart and repair it. But this entire thing, I assembled all of this I wanted to make sure I could build it all by myself, assemble it all by myself, and do the maintenance by myself, so that, you know, in a bad situation, if I'm the only one here, I can at least deal with it. It's a lot easier though, of course, when I got a little bit of help. So then all I got to do is just pull down. Reinstall my bolts, and I'm done. And we're going to end it here, and then I'm going to go and we'll shoot a little bit of footage of my windsock and where I've got it, or not windsock, wind flag, and where I've got located. I put it down near my compressors because my compressors are somewhat shielded from my tanks and the rail cars when they're there. And so it's only for me, so that if I ever have to vent a section of piping, is for my own peace of mind to know where the wind is actually blowing back there in a little bit more isolated part of my property. So that's it.